Related to Yawa Awiye and to Senior Padua. Good morning to you and Gabra of Deliverance and Service of God. It's your birthday today as well. Happy birthday to you. We're getting Gloria Gaba. Okay, that's your birthday today. It's your birthday as well. Happy birthday to you. Dr. Bernard Tutubuahin is the political marketing analyst and a marketing lecturer. And also Dr. Kweku Mensah Mauto is the Dean of the School of Graduate Studies at the University of Professional Studies here in Accra. Gentlemen, thank you very much and Happy New Year. We haven't met this year.
Yeah. Happy New Year. You, and many happy returns.
Sure. Yeah. Let's begin the conversation this way. I mean, we've seen what transpired in Parliament and already revelations that are coming out, whether the speaker was, we saw a process on television electing a speaker. Okay. Subsequently, we're being told that the speaker was selected. And that's been the pull and push that's been happening. Also, a very strong allegation from the Chief Whip, Muntaka, who says that a justice of the Supreme Court tried to influence the process of the selection or election of the speaker as we have it now. For you, as a Ghanaian and a teacher, you know, forming minds and shaping minds, graduate level. How does all of this come to you for a democracy that's 28 years and counting?
Thank you, Hugh, and good morning to all viewers. In fact, it's unfortunate in the history of the Fourth Republic with the gains we've made over the years in terms of how to portray our democracy in the House of Legislature. That's what happened the day before the inauguration, which has been condemned by everyone, was unfortunate. In fact, with the issues you've just mentioned, it could sound as if, as Ghanaians, we did not see what happened in there, unless they want to tell us that indeed, what happened was a political gimmick in the sight of the people, because in the full glare of, everyone, the whole world, we all saw what happened. We sat by our various television sets and witnessed what happened between these two political parties. And they must also know that our children were watching and they were setting bad precedents. Now, let's come to the substantive issue, right? In terms of they telling us that the speaker was selected but not elected. I mean, you can't tell me this. If in actual fact we saw a process which was distracted by both political parties, right? And you know, Hugh, the unfortunate thing that probably came out of the whole issue has to do with the way, especially the opposition party sought to, commend one of their own, that is Honorable Muntaka. I thought that was unfortunate because if you have a whole whip who we expect that they should be using their critical minds to solve issues, but have to resort to such violence to get issues sorted out. And if you take a critical look at the whole issue, you realize that even in the first instance, when the issue of the injunction cropped up, you heard very critical comments from the opposition party, where objective minds of the view that, yes, these are things we want to hear. Come out with your argument. Convince the House as to why the man should be allowed to vote. Finally, there was some finality to the whole issue. However, when you resort to violence and you think violence is the only way you can achieve whatever you are pursuing, then it's unfortunate. And there's this unfortunate issue that they always quote the Constitution, that
which is?
The people have the right to defend the Constitution and the democracy of our look, it is not, you don't have the right to use violence to defend the Constitution. The right you have is to use the processes and the provisions given by the Constitution to defend our democracy. That is why the party, the opposition party itself says that, look, we feel cheated, we've gone to court. These are things that we are supposed to do to protect our democracy. So, in fact, what they have come out to say sounds like we didn't watch what went on. That can't be, you can't describe that as a political gimmick. Unless that's what they do in Parliament. It's just unfortunate.
Dr. Titubu, let me come to you now. So we're hearing narratives that there could have been some form of influence from the back end. Munjaka is alleging bribery and inducement. If that really is true, then it means that corruption is going nowhere, correct?
Okay, so again, we take the opportunity to say good morning to our viewers and to wish them a happy new year. You see, this whole issue about this parliament and the selection or election of the speaker, you know, to me, is very unfortunate. On that day, I was on set.
I remember you slept here.
Yeah, no, not here, but the following day I was here.
Right.
But I was on another
network.
Right. And you see, from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m., all because the people that we have mandated to represent us in Parliament and to take some pragmatic decisions on behalf of the citizens of Ghana, unfortunately, went to that extent. And I think that, you see, if our democracy would move on, the parliamentarians who are supposed to defend the democracy at the highest level, you know, they will have to sit up.
How do you mean?
What I mean is that they should rather see what we, the citizens, don't see. All right? And come up with critical decisions rather than, you know, what an ordinary person would portray on the streets of Ghana. All right? Now, you see, how would you tell somebody, unless it is by partisan, you know, explanations, to convince me to tell me that some money, some justices of, you know, the Supreme Court or High Courts are being bribed.
Without evidence,
without evidence. I mean, how? And this is not the first time. Even whatever went on in Parliament on the 7th, okay? On the 7th, you know, they came out to say that some of their members were being bribed.
Right.
The two major political parties. You know, we've heard them saying that some members were being bribed from the other parties. And to me, that is a non-starter.
If we're to elect a speaker or choose a speaker, and already issues of bribery are coming in, and the president has been calling for consensus. Is this a glimpse of the kind of consensus to happen? Is it a glimpse of it?
We were actually expecting that the process will be allowed to flow. Okay. Now, you are making allegations of bribery. Are we expecting parliamentarians, you know, to go to that extent? Now, you see, in our body politics, in Ghana, we've seen monetization.
Right.
Which has become a deep-seated problem.
It is.
In our democracy. Now, who are the people who are at the center of that monetization? Obviously, during primaries of these two major political parties, we hear about monetization, people giving goodies for delegates to vote for them. Then on the national front, we hear people being given money to go and vote for a particular candidate. And now you are saying, a whole parliamentarian, you are saying that it is happening in parliament, and that even the justices of the Supreme Court are involved.
A justice of the Supreme
A justice
Court, right.
is involved.
Doc, does it come to you as a surprise that
It is.
that, for example, this is being said after the speaker has been chosen or elected or selected, whichever word they want to use now? Parliament's statement says the speaker was selected, but we saw an election process happening. But that's beside the point. Now, prior to the election of the speaker, we heard statements on the ground, like Doc has said. Both sides made very cogent argument, quoting from the Constitution, their standing orders. And at that point, if there indeed was bribery, which they were aware, why didn't they say it there?
Yes, so that is where, you see, it's just like your word against my word. All right? But you see, they are there, and they know what is happening. All right? My question is that if an ordinary person would accept bribe and can be jailed, what happens to you when you make such an allegation? And we think that Ghanaians should just take it for free and walk and go away?
They are covered by absolute privilege.
Which means?
They will go before their privileges committee. They are a house of their own.
And so what happens after then?
Rules.
What happens after then?
You tell me.
You see, and that is where the problem is. It's like the issue of equality before the law. It's not anything that we can talk about as long as you're a member of parliament.
Right. We need to start looking at it.
Exactly. And to me, I don't see. Fine. They say law is common sense. I'm not a lawyer. But at least I can put one or two logics together to make a conclusion. All right. And what I believe is that if we are saying that people are equal before the law, and to the extent that a parliamentarian can kick a ballot box, a parliamentarian can, pick ballot papers, a parliamentarian can hit somebody on the floor of parliament, in the full glare of Ghanaians, on national television, then where are we going? In the first place, the word honorable, what good are they making out of it?
Carlos says he did what he did for the love of his party, to reassure the grassroots of his party that...
What about Muntaka?
Well, he has not spoken about it. He seems to have been justifying what they did. His party people love him for that.
And that is where I believe that partisanship will not help us. You see, it is good to belong to a particular political party. All right. But do you sacrifice rationality for partisanship? And this is what is happening. Okay. But I think that our parliamentarians are also losing sight of the marketability and attractiveness of their party going forward. When you pick the statistics, you will see that swing voting or swing voter population is increasing. Why? For lack of confidence in a political party, for lack of confidence in parliamentarians. And that is why these days you see one-term parliamentarians, also increasing.
Going up, the numbers are going up.
All right. Now, if you can do this, what will be your future in 4 years?
Can we, Doc, I'll bring you in, but maybe final one to you. So you've raised a very strategic point, but then can we also look at it from this point that we have elected you to go to Parliament. We are a stronghold of either the NDC or the MPP. And for us, anything NDC, anything MPP is what we want. Forget about what is wrong, what is morally upright, what is lawful. Once it is tilting towards us and the pendulum is swinging towards us, we are fine. Where do you put those set of people who may be urging their MPs on, in spite of all that, of what's happened?
You see, others have said it, and it was part of my PhD, arguments. that between the two major political parties, none has majority in terms of votes. So if core voters of MPP and NDC are allowed to go and vote today, taking bribery and monetization out, as we saw in Parliament, right? What it means is that none of them will get the 50+1.
That's true.
Yeah.
Per the electoral records.
Not even 40%.
That's true.
Yes. So there are components of voters, a voter cohort, which believes in rationality. They don't believe in partisanship.
And you say that number is growing now.
It's growing. And those are the kingmakers in Ghanaian politics.
Okay.
And so they are rational voters. And we look at some of these things on national radio, national television, what they read, the things that they witness, and they put logic together to decide who to vote for and who not to vote for.
Right.
And so if you may want to appeal to your core voters, okay, then probably you are making a mistake.
I see. Malto, is this a glimpse of the kind of consensus that we are to get, where we go into a conclave, we take a decision, and because maybe, perhaps, we want to justify our position or look good in the eyes of the public, we come and spill all the things that happen in conclave? Is this a glimpse of the kind of consensus we're looking for? We're just starting. We have 4 years.
All right. That's a very serious issue, my colleague has mentioned. But there's one particular issue which continuously sought to emerge from proceedings in Parliament, especially the issue of bribery.
Okay.
Bribery. I think on a number of occasions we have some members of Parliament even coming out to accuse the House of bribery.
That's
we have
right.
PC Apiafori, we have Mahama Yariga, and then as master of their own procedures, they go out there to settle their own issue. Then it turned out to be allegation at any given point in time when some of these things are.
So in the matter of Mahama Yariga, for example, in the Boache Jako matter,
That is
a
it.
bipartisan committee was formed.
Thank you.
They had the hearings on TV, and then they turned out that it was not correct.
which some of
In
us
fact,
had issues with.
Muntaka was very, very insistent that something had happened, or had not happened, whatever it was. But we saw the hearings, and then it became another
But you see,
swept under the carpet case.
these are the problems we have. Someone accusing you. They did not accuse a particular, political party, but the House. And then a bipartisan committee was said, just as they've always been asking for a neutral, committees to probe into cases. We should have expected that they should also done the same. Because the same people who have been accused are the same people who sat on the committee.
That's right.
To deliberate on such issues. See,
That's right.
it is time, it will be in the interest of our parliamentarians to come out to diffuse the mind of Ghanaians that, look, all those allegations are not true.
How else would they do it? They started talking.
And I'm telling you, see,
James Abos is talking. Muntaka is talking.
until we cure this, for some of us, for the past few days, there's this school of thought that we are going to have the best of parliament.
Right.
Things will be done on consensus basis. But Hugh, where some of us sit, I can tell you that if care is not taken, this particular parliament will be the most corrupt parliament in the history of this nation.
Why do you say that?
Thank you. So it tells you that there's going to be room. You see, we are now at a crossroad.
Dr. Bohen is smiling along.
We are now at a crossroad where Ghana as a whole could benefit from this parliamentary setup. Where where we are now, the two major political parties have equal numbers.
Right.
The determinant will be the independent party member and independent MP. So one school of thought will say that yes, indeed, issues will be discussed dispassionately and will move away from partisan, perceptions, partisan influence. However, recounting the numerous allegations by even MPs, as well as people outside Parliament. Yeah. We've heard a number of institutions who have ever dealt with Parliament alleging that some of the bills they send, they have to pay out and then reach out. I mean, these are things we need to.
They don't just lobby, they pay as well.
That is it. We've heard it over and over the years. And at any given point in time, they'll be invited, and then, as usual, you have no evidence. So, I mean, if the one who pays the bribe is also accused, you are also accused, and in the eyes of the law, you have broken the law. It will be very difficult for them to also accept that, yes, indeed I paid bribe. So you didn't get any evidence.
Right.
So you see, if all
but
these
how
things
is that
are
going
not
to
cured,
play out now when you have half and half?
Okay.
I mean, I'll be watching your back, you'll be watching my back.
All right. So you see,
checks and balances.
So you see, if really those allegations are true, then the lobbyists will have to pay more.
Yeah.
That is it. That is it. The lobbyists must pay more.
Okay.
In the sense that with the previous parliamentary setup, you have a political party which is in majority. So if truly, indeed, people pay bribe and all those things, what it means is that you can only pay a section of the members in there, but this time you will have to convince the entire house, which will now be expensive for the lobbyists. But you see, notwithstanding all this, all we are saying is that we want a good democratic, legislature where people go in there to witness a very good intellectual discourse to come out with good acts. I have dealt with Parliament before. I was fortunate to be on a committee by the university. I quite remember when we were changing our name from IPS to UPSA. Okay. I was part of the committee that made the Educational Select Committee of Parliament. I did not witness any bribery. In fact,
is it because you were involved? So you don't want to say
as a committee,
you just said
as a committee member,
you can't admit that you gave bribe because they will be complicit.
Because it is a government institution.
Okay. Yes. As a committee member, I sat in there to work with both. Both sides. Okay. The committee set up so that both divides will work together.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
However, what we hear, when it comes to bribery, there should be a critical and conscious effort from the system to unravel the mystery behind some of these allegations. Okay. But if you want that evidence to be provided by the giver, you wouldn't get.
Okay. So for me, of key importance is this, that President says, let's have consensus. Okay. Speaker says, let's have consensus. Okay. The Ghanaian public and your good selves have been saying, look, let's all come to the table and work together because we have a hung parliament. Yeah. Now, a first test at consensus was to choose or select a speaker, whichever semantics they want to play with it. I saw an election process, I will always say that. They go into a conclave. They have conversations that we are all not privy to. Yeah. Then, post the election of the speaker, he's been sworn in, he's swearing the president and everything else. You get statements from both sides. Key persons who were in that conclave, spilling the beans. Is this the kind of consensus we're looking for? That we go back door, we talk, we build a consensus, we get the things done, and then at the slightest provocation, everybody starts talking. Is that what we're looking for?
So you see, Hugh, sorry. Sorry. So you see, these allegations did not come from myself and you.
Right.
A member of parliament, not an ordinary member, a whip of parliament, saying some of those things, tells you that it's a serious issue. We shouldn't even leave it out for their privileges committee to set on. If possible, let's open it up. In the interest of Honorable Muntaka, we should open it up to a very objective and neutral probe to go into, if indeed we want to uproot corruption from our parliament. Until then, the perception is right, and people continue to perceive that, yes, indeed, what we hear out there persists in there. So, my good friend, it's unfortunate some of those things are happening. And for some of us, we are of the view that for us to reap that benefit from the expected consensus we all want from Parliament, the media, the institutions have a role to play.
Okay.
We need to look at how best we have the third eye watching Parliament. A third eye to watch Parliament. To really scrutinize their proceedings. And that will bring that sanity we want from Parliament back. Because people, to a large extent, I wasn't happy. Yes, indeed, sometimes when there's disagreement, it's everywhere. I mean, Honorable Hugh, I mean, we've had some
back in the day at Nooks.
Back in the days when, I mean, at Nooks, you remember?
I remember.
We could set the deadline for even elections. Yeah, I mean, the timelines, probably elections should start from 8 o'clock before you realize it runs into midnight, so you'll be voting throughout the night. It's something we do. Yeah. But we don't fight. We disagree. We don't use violence. Are you okay? Yeah. And this is the opposite representation of what they stand for.
Dr. Chichibohin, so again, I'll put the same question I put to Dr. Mauto. Is this a kind of consensus we are looking for? We finish back-end meeting, then slightest provocation, Montaka is talking, Osaiche Mensah is talking, that, even the speaker, he was not elected. He was selected. It was a concession that we made for them. Is this the kind of thing we are looking for? Should they have been speaking publicly like they're doing now? Don't they have internal processes?
Maybe after coming out of the conclave, right, they would have said that we went for a consensus and this is it. Then in the first place, they wouldn't even waste anybody's time voting in the first place. Because once the leadership have agreed that this person is who is going to lead us in Parliament, that will be fine with us because they represent us. All right. Now, but if you go in there, you don't tell us whatever agreement that you have arrived at. You come back and you say, let's vote. Then, of course, we are also throwing dust into the eyes of your supporters, and for that matter, all Ghanaians.
Right.
So we were also expecting that the process would continue and end.
Logically.
Which didn't happen. Then the aftermath is that we went in there, this is what happened, and we came and someone is claiming ownership and another person, so we don't agree. But this is actually what happened. So what was the essence of the process that we started? Because
if I get you right, if we go into a conclave and we agree that let's make Mauto our speaker.
Yes.
And then we come out. And instead of announcing Mauto straight away, we go and say, let us vote.
Yes.
And somebody comes to take ballot sheets, is running, somebody chases, somebody kicking. We go into another conclave, we come back, we announce the speaker, only for you to come and tell us that, even the speaker, he was selected, not elected.
You understand?
You're confusing the people.
Yeah. That is it. And to me, that is even, as you rightly put it, it is the beginning of worse things to happen.
Thank you. No.
It is. You see, even not that, in there, they said that people were bribing others.
That's right.
You understand? For the Speaker of Parliament to choose a Speaker of Parliament, are bribing us.
So what else can't we bribe for?
You understand? And so, are they endorsing bribery in this country?
Would you call for a probe?
Obviously, that is what every Ghanaian will be, well-meaning Ghanaian is asking for. Okay? Now, you see, earlier on I was asking whether equality of the law doesn't include parliamentarians.
Right.
You see, so somebody causes financial loss to his company, and the person is jailed. Somebody in a public institution causes financial loss to government, the person is jailed. So the parliamentarian can go about, do anything, and not be jailed. So when it gets to national election, is it not a do and die affair?
That's unfortunately the tone we have set. Mauta, let's switch a bit and talk about appointments. I'm sure at this time the president is busy looking at who to put where.
Yeah.
And a lot of lobbyists will be at the president's doorstep, or people who have the ear of the president to going to tell him, oh, this man is our person, he's from our region, he's our godfather here, he's that. He's my son, he's my godson, he's my goddaughter. Give him or her that position. What should the president be considering at this point? I am of the view that the president should, whoever is lobbying him now, if they had previously enjoyed the position, the person should bring their report card and show what their KPI was, what they did, which should merit another appointment. What's on your mind? You are a lecturer. You give people a marking scheme and all of that, and you grade them. What's running through your mind?
Thank you, Hugh. Before I address this particular issue, I just wanted to probably flip back to the issue of consensus.
Okay.
I mean, already we are told, and when you read through the parliamentary hazard, it's evidence that about 90% of issues on the floor of Parliament are agreed on by consensus. I mean, it's just that in few instances they have to vote. Okay, so already I would say that consensus is something that they build on whenever issues crop up. So it's very, very important and imperative to put that one.
Let me quickly read this from Dr. Clement Park. It says, Hughes, if the NPP side had simply complied to voting secretly, the process would have been calm. But when our opponents decided to violate the law-dictated and practice-driven protocol of secret voting or balloting, voting and showing their ballot, you can't expect then that to be allowed. In fact, it had become clear that the clerk and his team had no balls to ensure a secret ballot. So we had to stand up in defense of what is lawful and what is right. And if you ask me, we need to introduce electronic voting in Parliament immediately, given the current numbers. I am not. If I'm not, I'm afraid this occurrence will repeat itself when key bills, agreements, etc. that require balloting come to the floor. On our side, I can assure you that we will continue to insist on a secret ballot on matters that require such. And it says the clerk made it clear. We voted for Bagbin, he won, and it was not by consensus nor conferment. The record must be set straight. And speaking of electronic ways, I know that Parliament, we said that we're going to digitize Parliament. I always see the machine in front of them, but I see the papers going around as well. I'm wondering where the digitization is. No, good morning to you.
So here, you see, in view of those particular comments, I just want to know from the honorable man whether indeed he wants to admit that it's possible that you use violence to cure some of these issues. Look, as parliamentarians, there are several avenues to address issues.
That's not actually, violence is not the way.
It's not a way. You don't defend your actions. We are not interested in that.
Okay.
We have a future to protect. We have children who are watching them as honorables. When they come out, people must listen to them. So they should stop defending some of the actions.
Mr. Obing says he fled because his son was young. I'm told the Chief Justice as well. Sam George says fled. But let's talk about appointments. What should be running through the president's mind at this point?
All right.
A lot of lobbying will be ongoing now.
Thank you. Thank you. I think on the same desk, during the first term of the president, we came discussing issues of the number of ministers. Some of us came out with the costs that it will impose on the Ghanaian populace, which has a tendency of even reducing the number of projects we want to develop, and then, during the 4-year tenure. We are still waiting for the president, whether he will be maintaining the same number of ministries. A number of school of thoughts have written and espoused that the president must reduce the portfolios, especially the associated costs that these ministries brings about. But to be frank with you, Hugh, it's imperative to know that when you are selecting leadership to represent you in the various ministries as well as agency, it's incumbent on the president to select the best. And as usual, it is obvious that there will be some partisan influence, because you see, as a president, you were brought in. You were brought in by a party, so you should expect some influence from your party. However, what we expect from the president is that let's get the right people to work for this country. Okay. Now we are talking about getting KPIs. I think the first instance we had a number of KPIs that were turned out on a number of platforms, instructing those appointees to work within the interest of the Ghanaian populace. However, in the next few days to come, I know we will create a platform to assess the 4-year term, because as a whole, the Ghanaian populace appraised the president's performance and gave him the mandate again. Right. However, I am of the view that what the media as well as academia can do is to subject some of these previous appointments to some peer review, and also advise subsequent government as to whether it is prudent to have a large government.
The president made a strong argument for the number of ministers they had. And he says that he needed the numbers to be able to deliver.
Thank you.
As to whether he delivered or not is the people who will tell. But then again, we saw the delivery tracker. President Kufuor scored the government 72%. President himself scored 78%. Vice President scored 76%. We saw the delivery tracker. NDC says 13%. But we've moved on. If you look at Article 76, it's talking about not less than 10 cabinet ministers, not more than 19 cabinet ministers. So let's assume the president wants to have 19. Then 256 of the Constitution is talking about every region having a regional minister. So that's 19 plus 16. Now, there's no ceiling as to the number of, per 78, Article 78, the number of ministers of state that the government can have. However, for the role of deputy minister and for the role of deputy regional minister, the Constitution says may. It didn't say shall. So it's not mandatory. If you look at these provisions, how many ministers are we looking at? If you were president, what would you choose?
The provisions of the Constitution does not, in respect to membership of cabinet, does not restrain a particular government from the number. It doesn't even limit them to the number of appointees. You only have to meet the provisional arrangement for the constitution of your cabinet. Okay. What we are talking about here is the number of appointees, which for me, I don't have serious issues with that. But if we are to subject them to the additional cost they add up to our existing cost, and then just opposite with the development that probably they would have carried, which in fact there were agencies that were created. When we subjected some of these issues to peer review, we realized that some of the new agencies created were already existing agencies under other ministries, as well as agencies. So here we accused the first appointment to be duplication of work and other ministries as well as agencies. There's numerous call that there should be a measure of a number of ministries. For instance, maybe fisheries could go back to agriculture. The possibility of merging communication as well as information. These are things we think they work in sync. And once you separate them, yes, indeed, you probably want to ensure that there's this separation of duties for people to work within their jurisdiction.
Right. In fact, under John Mahama, I remember that Dr. Mani Boama was communication minister, but he was also doubling as information minister because somebody was yanked off at some point. I don't know. Doc, what's running through your mind if you were president today and you had the big task of picking ministers and possibly deputy ministers, which is not mandatory, by the way? What will be running through your mind? You have had one term, you have an agenda, you're going forward. What would you be considering to appoint?
So, from management perspective, right, you first look at the task that you seek to accomplish. And so that should be the first, reference point. So to what extent or which direction is the president leading the country? And what does the president seek to achieve in his second term? All right. Normally, I believe, when this issue of the ministers came up in the president's first term, what actually I was thinking about is the fact that, probably he's thinking about performance, and he's looking at bringing people into accountability. So if you are a communications minister, you have some set of specific, rules and tasks that is set for you. And if you are a minister for information, you also have a different role and task to perform. So at the end of the day, at the end of the year, at the end of the term, you need to account.
Right.
But normally, I believe that roles or leadership roles is about effectiveness, competencies, that you exhibit.
We had a minister for monitoring and evaluation. Dr. Alkotose, very fantastic gentleman.
Yes.
Did we see the essence of that ministry in terms of assessing the ministers and deputy ministers? Some of them, we never heard of them. Exactly. We never saw them appear anywhere.
Yes.
But they were ministers and deputy ministers drawing salaries and getting the cooks, the bodyguards, everything else.
So that is the point I'm driving at. All right. So if a particular ministry, will not have any effect on your direction, and probably your goals, you don't really spend time, putting that ministry together. Are
you suggesting that the president didn't get it right? Minister for Planning or Ministry for Planning,
no, that's
Ministry
not what
for Monitoring and Evaluation.
That is not what I'm saying. What I'm trying to imply, you see, there's always, in organizational management, there's what we call the experience curve.
Right.
And every institution, every leader, you are supposed to be learning. Okay? So you may take a first step, it may not work for you. So in the second step, you take, advice from the first to advise yourself. All right. So my point is
but that is assuming that then you have not done that before, and this will be your first experiment, which would help you.
Exactly.
But the NPP has been in power from 2001 to 2008.
It is the president that makes that decision.
But the president makes the decision based on the advice he gets from people who purport to know, who consult for him.
But his decision is supreme.
Okay, so he can decide that he won't take the advice that is given to him, and he'll still go ahead.
Obviously, as you sit here, okay, the producers may tell you something, which of course you may object to. All right, yeah. But if you carry out your plans and it doesn't work for you, then of course you pay attention to what the producer is telling you.
Right.
So it is a human.
But who bears the cost? Like Moto will ask.
Yes.
Who bears the cost of this experiment?
So if it had been something that people were against, then obviously you could see a reflection in the election.
Well, but right from the outset, I mean, of course, and you made a very strong point. We'll go to Bella shortly. The key thing is that right from the outset, when the over 100 ministers were appointed, people started complaining. But it didn't appear that the government was listening. In fact, the government, twice, the president strongly justified the numbers. And you're saying it showed in the election.
So my point is that if Ghanaians took that comment seriously and said that we didn't want a president who would select or nominate so many ministers, and that it is going to have effects on our budget. Okay, so please sit aside, and then let's bring somebody who will give us a small size number of ministers. Then we will know. You understand? Now, you see, earlier on, Doc was talking about
1 million votes divided by 2, 137 plus 137 plus 1 is a strong message that the people sent.
But obviously, yes, but obviously, this election actually separated the presidency from parliament. Yes. You understand? And so you see that people backed the president, suggesting that his performance was okay. But with the parliamentarians, they say that your performances are not good. So some of you should go home. Those who deserve to be there, let them come.
To the extent that most of them are ministers. So, for example, Fisheries Minister lost at Crowell.
Yeah.
His deputy, who is at the Kumfi, where the factory is, lost. The man who is in charge of premix at Odododiodo lost. Now, these are key appointments.
Exactly.
So that if these are MPs who had been rejected by their people, but they were also serving as ministers, working to the president and for the president on behalf of all of us, they had also been rejected. That's a strong warning to the president as well.
So what probably it suggests, the logic in there is that it is not about the ministry, but the minister.
Okay.
Who is also a parliamentarian.
Okay.
So probably your constituency doesn't support your parliamentary, activities within the constituency and your performance in there.
Right.
So go away. You see.
Go away. So, Bella, come inside.
Interesting. Anyways, let's read some comments quickly. So, good morning, Johnny. What actually happened in Parliament was not right. But if there's any Carlos in your life trying to disturb your joy and happiness, then he'll meet his butaka in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Oh, did you just say amen?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you sure you want to say amen?
Oh, but it's a prayer.
Okay. Ghana democracy is eroding due to what happened in Parliament on the 7th of January 2021. It is a shame. Napoleon Bonaparte in Tumu Sankofa Base. Good morning, TV3. Johnny and your panelists. I think we ordinary Ghanaians have to sue parliamentarians for such unfounded, shameful and childish behavior portrayed in Parliament. God save our homeland Ghana. That's Moses Ajubil, a win to win. Inside Sandema. Good morning, Johnny. For God's sake, the issues with regards to Parliament was not selection. It was an election. If it was selection, then why did they bring the electoral materials for voting to take place? God was actually on the side of the NDC. GM from Tamale. Good morning, good people of Ghana. Indeed, this great nation has once again demonstrated the power of working together. I'm proud of you all as Ghanaians. Let Africa learn from you all. Continue to lead this part of Africa. Mohammed Sheikh Couture from Freetown, Sierra Leone. Boshaba Amisti Goso Zongo says President Anado has to be vigilant about the people that he's going to appoint as ministers and MMDCs because some of them betrayed him in last year's elections. My regards to Honorable Evans Opoku Bobie, Ahafo Regional Minister, and Honorable Yause Boabing, Esunafo North MCE. The leaders of this nation have exhibited to us the level of corruption surrounding the House of Parliament alone. I am very sad. That's James Sowa from Takwa. Good morning, TV3 and your panelists. Well, they should speak the truth because Muntaka Mubarak was defending our constitution with his blood. And this is a message from Harry from Tamale North constituency. And finally, good morning, TV3. I agree with Dr. Boahini about equality of the law. It seems not to apply to a certain group of people. What transpired in Parliament was disgusting and should have no place in our civilized democracy. Ghanaians should be mindful of the kind of people they choose to represent them. That's from Abdul Aziz Nendo Katochi in Tema.
Thank you very much. Doc, I'll take a final bite. Closing
I was going to make another point with regards to, you see, when you look at organizational performance, cost and revenue, revenue, which is a performance indicator, normally the revenue should be higher than, the cost. If you can substitute revenue with performance, then your performance should be higher. Now, what I was thinking was that if the president is going to appoint let's say 50, you know, how do you call it, ministers, all right, and create maybe 50 ministries,
okay,
all right. What it means, and very much important, is how effective, you know, those ministers and ministries, you know, will be,
okay,
and then its corresponding performance at the end of the term.
Right.
In other words, how they will contribute to the growth of the economy.
Right.
All right. Now, if you pick 100 and they can also deliver and probably catapult your performance, okay, then of course issues of cost doesn't really come in.
But where your debt to GDP is high, where how you're servicing your debt is also...
So these are the things
that's in its own calypso.
Yes, so those are the things. Earlier, I think you were talking about key performance indicators.
Right.
Okay, so these are some of the indicators that will inform your decisions.
Okay.
So
what number would you put if the president asks for your advice as to how many ministers he should pick? I've said 70, 76.
Obviously, I don't really know.
10 to 19, between 10 and 19.
Yeah, already you've given 35.
Exactly.
35, which is
what is mandatory? Yes.
Okay, 35. And so probably you would need some additional ones.
Like how much? 70?
I don't know the dynamics 88. In there. I don't know the dynamics in there. And actually, no. You see, sometimes we speculate a lot. All right. If you ask me how I can manage my class as a lecturer, okay, of course, I may not need 2 or 3 class reps, you know, to manage my class.
Right.
I can even do without a class rep.
Right.
You understand? In that case, I'm saving costs.
Okay.
Okay. But to make me more effective, of course, I may need 1 or 2 class reps to manage my class.
Okay. I hear you. You have not answered my question. That's the lecturer's way of saying, okay, I hear you, but I have not heard you. Closing thoughts for you. Do you have a number for the president?
I don't have a number for the president, but we hope that the president will come out with his numbers, justify it, and then the numbers that the appointment will benefit the entire country by the people who are appointed to work within their KPIs and meet their KPIs. That is what the average Ghanaian is.
The politician's dream, the taxpayer's burden.
You know, when you say dream, to a large extent, you need to juxtapose that with performance, okay? And some of us will have the view that, yes, indeed, the large number of ministers, probably the president appointed them because he wanted to specialize in some specific areas, which he thought. Okay. Which he thought that probably they were, some of the ministries were overburdened. But you know, the issue was the fact that you are creating a new ministry where there will be other staffs and all that, which will increase our costs. So we are expecting that the president probably this time, whatever he's going to present, we are ready to scrutinize it and then probably give feedbacks.
Dr. Bernard Tutu Boahene is a political marketing analyst, is a political marketing lecturer as well. A marketing lecturer, I beg your pardon. Thank you, Doc, for coming. And Dr. Kweku Mensah Mauto is a dean of the School of Graduate Studies at the UPSC, my very long time friend who has abandoned me, but God is alive. Happy birthday to Lydia Yeboah Jamefi, Anointed Faith Chapel. It's your birthday today. Related one to Yawa Awe. It's your birthday as well. Mr. President, good morning to you. As you get ready to appoint your ministers, this is the message from Ghanaians. The general view of Ghanaians is that if you gave somebody an appointment in the past, they must show you results of what they did because you had KPIs and you announced them publicly on television for them. If they did not perform, don't give them a job come what may whatever before. They are part of the halving of the 1 million votes you won in 2016. They will bring you down. And Mr. President, also put specific people at specific roles. Don't put